is estate planning and what is elder law? And so I want to start with explaining to you that exact difference. But when I say all this, I do want you to know that I look at the difference between estate planning and elder law possibly very differently than other people that call themselves elder law attorneys do. So I don't want you to assume that just because I tell you that this is the difference between estate planning and elder law, that if you do happen to work with another elder law attorney, that they're going to have the same viewpoint or are going to do things in the way that we do them in our office. And the reason is because elder law is sort of in the whole scheme of the different types of law that there are out there. It's a newer area of law. And so the way that we approach elder law and the way that we look at it and the tools that we have at our disposal at elder law as elder law attorneys can be very different. That being said, this is the view of what I consider to be the difference between estate planning and elder law. Okay, so when we talk about estate planning specifically, I look at estate planning as death planning. What happens, not if, but when we die. What happens when we die? Who's going to get our stuff? Who's going to be in charge of that process? How can we make sure that it happens as smoothly and easily as possible? How do we do it in a way that avoids any kind of tax consequences, or at least the least burdensome tax consequences to the people that we care about? How do we do it in a way that doesn't cause unintended consequences to both our money and the people that we care about? That's estate planning, in my view. What happens, not if, but when we die? Okay, and for some of you, you might be saying, well, that's the whole reason that I'm here, Nicole, is that's what I want to know about. I need to know about my estate planning options because I'm just really concerned about what happens to my stuff when I die. That is important, and I don't want to discount it. Of course it's important. If you're watching this and you think it's important, then it's important. I'm not here to tell you what's not important. But let me also talk to you about elder law. And the thing is most people don't understand what elder law is because, like I said, it's sort of a newer area of practice. Not all elder law attorneys do the same thing. And it feels like we're, a phrase that we understand or that we know what it is. But most people just don't really understand what it means. By the end of this presentation, you're definitely going to know what it means in its entirety from my perspective. But for right this moment, I will tell you this. As elder law, specifically from our perspective and from my perspective, is about life planning. So elder law is about what happens if we get older and then we need care. We need care and we need to pay for care. Because unfortunately, in the United States at this time, the issues related to aging and needing care are not something that generally get paid for through what would be traditional ways of paying for what we consider medical things like Medicare. They are not being paid for through those sources. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit more. But elder law is really about life planning. What happens if we get older? And because of modern medicine, because of the aging process, because of what happens to people, we need care. How are we going to afford that? That's elder law and elder law planning. And so from my perspective, in that respect then, life planning is really about taking control, maintaining, keeping control. And control is such an important thing to so many of our clients. In fact, I would say that the idea of losing control is possibly one of the biggest fears that our clients have. And that makes sense to me, right? I understand that the idea that you might lose control is very scary to you, almost to the point that you might not even want to think about it or really have never considered it. But let's talk about what taking and keeping control actually means.